Hello, everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Now, as I promised you before, we are going to be rolling right on along here with our Occultist guide from Pathfinder, and we are taking a look today at the class abilities. And I just have to say, I'm not quite sure when I had done it. It must have been within the previous guide, looking at the bard, but I'd gotten some of my layout a little bit twisted around here. I don't know why I didn't catch it before and why it only took me till now to realize why am I doing skills before just covering the overall class abilities? That seems a bit out of whack. And really, it is. It's screwy, it's messed up, and for whatever the next class is that I'll be covering, I'll hopefully have that fixed. But for now, we are just gonna just move with what we have, and I will live with the mistake and error on my part. But mastery does not come without making mistakes and learning from them. So, moving right on along from there, class abilities for the occultist. To begin with, overall, you're looking at a pretty interesting and pretty solid layout. You get a D8 for hit dice. It's, again, pretty solid. It's not bad for being in the thick of a fight. Rogues get it, clerics, I mean, it's really not bad, especially with the other things that we have coming along here with this, like the base attack bonus. You get that 2/3 progression, which is not bad, especially when you're coupling this with your various focus powers and other buffs from, say, your spells. Those will help out nicely with your combat abilities if you're really, really wanting to focus on that. And with this build, that's what we're going for. Uh, and for those of you that don't know, 2/3 progression means you're progressing a little bit more slowly. Classes like the fighter, paladin, or barbarian, and ranger, they get the full attack progression, meaning at each and every level they get a +1 bonus to their base attack. So from level 1 to level 20, they'll end up with a +20 for their attacks and have 4 attacks. For the occultist, they are going to end up with a +15 for their attacks, and they'll have 3 attacks total, just off of their base attack bonus. But going on from there, we have our saves. So your good saves are going to be your fortitude and will saves. You're going to have poor reflex saves. Now, some people say that fortitude and will saves are the prime fortitude or prime saves that you will use. I disagree. I think it's will and reflex. And will and reflex are particularly important because, well, while blasting magic, your fireball, your lightning, meteor swarm, and all of those kinds of spells are not the most effective options typically for your wizards and your sorcerers and the like, enemy casters really like to throw those out there. Certainly, I know I like to throw them out there when I'm running enemy caster NPCs or have access to those kinds of abilities. So, reflex saves are important. Will saves are also important because, well, spells like Dominate Person and the like that help a spellcaster seize control of opponents are incredibly useful and actually do a lot to turn the tide of battle. I run one game where things went horribly for the party because 2 people fell prey to such spells. So having a good fortitude save, though, it's not necessarily bad. That's going to help you with a lot of your saves against poisons and certain spell effects like Stinking Cloud and all the various variations off of those different kinds of cloud spells, different poison. Well, I already said poison effects. You get the idea. From there, we have our various proficiencies. The occultist is proficient with light armor, medium armor, shields, and martial weapons, which is a pretty good layout there. That gives you some interesting combat options. Now, medium armor is not going to provide the same protective benefits as, say, heavy armor, your full plate and everything, but having shields and medium armor is still pretty damn good, and the martial weapons gives you quite a bit of variety for dealing damage to your enemies. For skills, you get 4 plus your intelligence modifier. That's tough given the number of useful skills that we've covered, but having a good intelligence score will help round that out. Ideally, you're looking at least 7 skill points each level, which will help you build several choice skills. Maybe not every level, but at least if you're alternating between some skills every other level, then you're still going to be looking at a really nice progression for those skills, especially ones that seem like they're going to be fairly useful, or if your DM can give you any kind of tips or ideas or hints ahead of time. That will be incredibly helpful. Definitely amp up your use magic device skill though. And then after that, you have your spellcasting. You're a two-thirds spellcaster, meaning you're not getting all the way up to ninth level spells, you're just getting to the sixth level spells. And spellcasting is always a good thing, but your options when it comes to the occultist are kind of weird. You're a spontaneous caster, meaning you don't have to study and prepare your spells ahead of time necessarily, but it's tied to your implement schools, which are drawn from your usual 8 schools of magic, your abjuration, evocation, illusion spells, necromancy, things like that. Your list grows every time you select another implement, and you get to select 10 levels of spells. You will start with 2 implement schools. So implements, you can already see, are going to be very important for the occultist. It affects your spellcasting so much. And you also have your focus powers, which there's a lot of variety to these as well, and is also tied to your implement selections. At first level, you get 2 base powers for your implement schools and may select 1 more from those schools at first level. And this, of course, grows and progresses as you level up. You get more options to select from. Any save DCs that are associated with the powers that you pick out start at 10 plus 1/2 your level plus your intelligence modifier. So at level 1, you're just getting that +1 there. Level 2, still just a +1, but as you advance and grow, again, those DCs will increase. So, and the reason why I'm listing these as both really great options and kind of okay, it really depends on what you pick out ahead of time. And given the wide array of choices that you have here, some choices can kind of sink you if you're not being careful and planning ahead of time, at least from a mechanical standpoint. You may find a power or a spell from a particular implement school, and you just go, God, that really fits my build. If that's the case, from a roleplay perspective, do that, because it makes for a better, more fun, I think, and more interesting character. These guides are just meant as a primer to help prevent you from making too many bad decisions that leave you with a mechanically ineffective character that's not capable of doing much of anything. The idea is you use this guide to build a competent character, but then still leave room for some fun choices that are maybe not the most mechanically effective. But after that, we have implements themselves. Implements dictate your spell list and focus powers. While they can vary in effectiveness, planning and selection will be essential here, as I was already talking about. So definitely this one is still blue, but given that this is what we're going to be focusing on and paying more attention to, we should be able to affect the previous 2 choices greatly, since the implements dictate what focus powers you get and what spells you're getting access to. Making good choices here will give good results in those other 2 areas. And for that matter, you also get mental focus. These are points that you invest into your implements and expend to gain their associated focus powers. You gain points equal to your occultist level plus your intelligence modifier. These refresh each day after 8 hours of rest, and you need to take 1 hour to invest the focus points into your implements. Focus power can be stored in your body, but activating an implement power will cost twice as much if it's just that generic focus power that's not invested in an implement. So you almost very rarely will ever want to just keep generic focus power stored within you. You want to store it in your implements more often than not. At second level, you unlock magic item skill, which what this does for you is occultists will gain a bonus on used magic device checks equal to 1/2 their cultist level. Now, at a certain point, you may not worry about bumping up your used magic device skill all that much, but overall, given the utility that the skill has, I would say you're very rarely going to be ill-served by putting a point into the skill each level. This does afford you some flexibility, though, and maybe allows you to put this on the alternate leveling, where you are not leveling at every level, but bumping it up every other level, because every 2 levels, you're going to get a +1 bonus. So by the time you're level 6, that's a +3 right there, on top of the fact that you get a +3 miscellaneous bonus. If you're taking the trait that allows you to switch this skill to your intelligence rather than charisma, well, that's another +3, so you're already at a 9, and, well, considering you have to put 1 point into it, you're sitting at a +10 without really having to invest too many of your skill points into it. But I really do recommend that you keep putting points into it with some kind of regularity. Even at every other level, by level 6, you're looking at around a +13 without having to do too much to overwhelmingly focus on it. And that will still allow you a great ability to, well, use different magical devices, be able to activate them and use them at will almost. I mean, really, at a certain point, you're only going to fail if you roll a 1. So definitely keep this skill in your rotation, at least for leveling up. And this ability will help go far for assisting in that. Also at 2nd level, you get object reading. You examine an item for 1 minute. If it's magical, you learn its properties and its command words as if you had cast the Identify spell on it and made a successful spellcraft check. You can also learn one thing about the item if it's of any kind of historical significance, and if it was used at least 1 day per occultist level, you learn one thing about the last owner or wielder. If the item is cursed, however, you cannot detect that unless your occultist level is equal to the caster level or greater. So by level 2, you will have 2 days to learn something about the last wielder if somebody had used it within the last 2 days. At 3 days, well, you're out of luck until you hit, well, by the time you hit level 3, that moment may be past by quite a lot. But you get the idea. The higher in level you are, the further back into an item's history you can reach to learn about its previous wielder, if there was one recently enough. Definitely a useful skill when it comes to figuring out which implements may be of significant historical importance, which all of your implement skills and abilities run off of. All your spellcasting runs off of that. Then, at level 4, you gain an ability called Shift Focus. This is not a very good ability. You can shift your focus from one implement to another, but you lose a focus point in the process. It takes a minute and does not activate any resonant abilities. This is a last resort sort of thing, because it's not, if you're transferring your focus power into another implement, you will not be able to reach higher tiers of power from this. This is consistently described as a desperate move of last resort, but it hurts a lot. And if you're in a situation where you're desperate and this is a last resort, the fact that it takes 1 minute also hurts. This class ability, I get why it's here, it fits thematically, but as far as class abilities go, this one really, really hurts you. So this is where good planning is really going to be paramount when it comes to the occultist, because your focus points are in very limited supply, and given the number of implements you can be using and activating each day, you will really want to be careful with your choice selection and try to prepare ahead of time. But following up from that, at 5th level, you get Aura Sight. You read the auras of creatures as a standard action, as if you were using the Aura Sight spell. This lets you detect the alignments of any creature as often as you like. This is an awesome ability for paladins, any clerics that are able to cast this spell. Anybody who can use this spell will find a great deal of use out of it. The fact that you can do this as a standard action and there's really no limit on it is great for all kinds of information gathering. not just from a mechanical perspective, but this fits from a roleplay perspective too. And you could be that wandering charlatan who's reading people's auras and divining their futures. Really, really fits well with the occultist overall, I'd say. But then we come to the next ability here, which is Magic Circles. It kicks in at 8th level. You learn to draw magic circles. It requires salt, blood, powdered silver, or some other appropriate material to make the circle. It takes 1 minute to complete and requires you to use 1 focus point. It becomes a permanent magic circle against the alignment you select, but it cannot be against any part of your own alignment. Meaning, if you are lawful neutral, you cannot create a magic circle against anything with law or neutrality in their alignments. You can affect chaos, you can affect good, you can affect evil, but you cannot affect law or neutral. So, definitely something where you're really going to have to know and understand what kind of opponents you're going up against. But given Aura Sight and the fact that you can just do it as a standard action, you should be able to kind of tell what kind of alignments are coming up against you. So the only real limiting factor to this ability is the fact that it takes a minute to do. And it takes 1 of your focus points, which are really, really precious. But if you're in trouble and your allies, your teammates, your party can buy you time, well, this can be a massively helpful barrier to put in place. So it's not a bad ability. It's an interesting ability. And again, I think it's something that fits with the occultist, but mechanically may not be something you're relying on in combat a whole heck of a lot. And right now, for there, that is where we're going to call it. There are more class abilities to go over, but this took a lot of time to read up on and understand and type up, especially with the holiday season upon us. I hope you all understand, but next time around, we will finish up with the Occultist class abilities, and then after that, we're going to go over a little primer on their implements and focus powers, try to break those down in greater detail to help you all with understanding that. And also, Sunday's video of something for fixing D20 Modern may not happen. I may improvise a little bit if I can create the time. There's still so many things going on with this holiday season that may get put on hold until next weekend. I hope you all understand, and I hope you all have had a wonderful holiday season. Whether you celebrate Christmas, Yule, Saturnalia, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever holidays you may be celebrating or not celebrating, I hope this time has been good to you. I hope you have had comfort, cheer, some sort of happiness in your life. Because as we close out 2020, I know we could all use a little bit of brightness in our lives. Certainly, I've gotten to enjoy a little bit of that myself with my family, having my son's first Christmas, my daughter's second. But, well, you know. Wait, it's my daughter's third. Oh, damn my tired, sleepy mind. Well, you get the idea nonetheless. I've gotten to enjoy some time with my own little family, and I hope that you all out there have had some sort of cheer in your lives as well. After all, we all need to follow the number 1 rule: don't be a dick. Be kind to each other, be good to each other. Let these dice roll on and let the stories just keep flowing out and help bring entertainment to one another as well as ourselves. If you enjoyed today's video, please go on down there below in the comments. Let me know, hit the like button, or even if you didn't, still, let me know in the comments down below what you disagree with. Do you think some abilities here are better or worse than what I'm putting across? Let me know. Let's engage in the discussion here. And also hit the dislike button, like I said. But if you have been enjoying this video, well, I've got good news for you. There are going to be a couple more popping up over here. One of them is something the almighty Google Rhythm has decided that you will enjoy. The other is just another video I've done here recently, but I think you'll find it's fantastic as well. And if this hasn't been your first stop, you've watched a couple of videos so far, then go on down there, hit the subscribe button. Clearly, you're enjoying what's being put out here. I'm more than happy to have more of you joining here at the Gamers Den, becoming friends and alumni, my fellow gamers, my fellow nerds. But with that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night, and may the new year treat us at least a little bit better.